Welcome to Shardcast, the Brandon Sanderson podcast. We're a bunch of mega fans giving you the news, discussion, and of course a whole lot of opinions about Brandon's works in the Cosmere. But not the Cosmere today, because we're talking about more Dark One. I'm Eric, and joining me is Ian.
I am Weiry writer again.
Okay. Also joining us is Evgeni. Again.
And I'm back.
Oh god. And also joining us is not Batman, Danielle.
Still Felcandy.
You don't know if she's Batman. She could totally be Batman.
She could.
Don't tell everybody.
And I'm Chaos. And we're going to talk about more Dark One because turns out we have... Are you okay there?
There was a fly.
It seemed like you were like just flipping your hair. It was great.
It literally flew into my nose and flew away. It was
in
very
the fight
disruptive.
between Ian and his hair, I root for the hair.
Yeah. Look,
I am
hair
slowly
is winning the
being
battle.
consumed.
Hair
I
is
need a
winning the
haircut.
battle in quarantine. That's for sure.
Mhm.
We're going to talk more about Dark One. Because turns out there's kind of a lot to talk about, and we didn't quite realize how much we had to say on it. Because again, we didn't really outline these episodes, so I'm both sorry, but also you get to see us more off the cuff, unlike with Cosmere stuff. You know,
Raw, unfiltered content.
unfiltered, still edited though. But you know, so let's start by talking about how awesome the map is in Dark One, because it is super cool.
Let's do that.
What do we want to talk about on this map?
The name.
Yeah?
Well, before even the names,
Uh-huh.
what I super love about it is that it is so stereotypically fantasy
Yes.
concept, evil on one side,
Yep.
good on the other side, with a literal river dividing them.
Yep.
Like it, I think that captures the character of the story and the world that we're gonna be playing with so well.
Yep.
And then there are the names.
Like Spectre's Watch, the Raxian Desolation.
Well, I mean, you gotta have the desolation next to Mordor. I mean, that makes sense.
The plains of not thirst. It is the plains of
Thrist.
Thrist.
Oh, you have the Warfields of Carcoon and Malmahan's Folly, which totally wouldn't, looking back at it, interesting.
Yeah. So,
Mhm.
and didn't they talk about how like because the folly was a keep, right, or like a tower?
Yeah, because
Yes.
it looks like it's that tower, I guess.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And they talked about how even so much time after Malmaham, like it still hasn't fallen, which was interesting. I wonder if that was supposed to be like foreshadowing that Malmahan is still out there.
I wish I could just control F for Malmahan. I'm so upset.
Right home.
It's interesting because what does this Ols mean? ULS? Because there's Ols Carcoon and Ols Eden. Who's
I
Eden?
think that's like mountains of.
Hmm.
Yeah, that's my impression as well. But that begs the question: who was Eden?
Yeah.
Wait, wasn't? Oh my god! Stupid brain. The knight that
sent?
they sent after Paul.
Mm-hmm.
Wasn't one of his titles something to do with Eden?
I
Or
don't
maybe his name.
know. I will say that when the Chronicle King was first introduced, I thought he looked like Odin because like
Yeah.
one of his eyes was in shadow.
Yeah, a little bit.
But then I realized, oh no, you do have two eyes. So
Disappointingly.
yeah.
But yeah, I do think it's really interesting that there exists Olskarkun.
But also on the map, there's the Drollkretch Forest.
Hmm.
Is that where they're born? Or
I think so.
grown?
I think so. Because
I love that
Um,
concept, by the way. That's so cool.
yeah, Rastic mentions his Kretch sires.
Yes.
And how they
he does.
grow.
Yeah.
Mhm.
They don't have mom and dad. And I love how he's kind of like grossed out by that too.
Even the great.
I mean, to be fair, human reproduction is a little messy.
Yeah, it's
yes,
like
it is.
yeah, it's weird.
Even the great sundering of the narrative by the Dark One Malmahan, the one who came before you, did not fell our spirits. He was different than those who came before him. We adapted. But I don't think they talk about the tower.
It happens in the top left panel of a page. And like as they're traveling to the pitch, but before they get to the pitch, right? Because they pass by the tower on the way to the pitch.
Oh, I thought it was when he was traveling with the princess. They
Oh, was
passed
it? Oh, maybe it was.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I found it.
Okay, great.
So they're passing it, and Fiotora says, "Be careful not to gaze on that tower too long. Malmahan's folly has been burned 7 times, but still its walls will not topple. Some whisper of his cursed soul, alive there even now.
Okay.
Who's Malmahan? Blah, 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 blah."
Wow. Man, there's a lot of lore baked into this that is like, it's really easy to forget that one time.
Let's take a look at the Kingdoms of Light. Anything interesting there?
So I guess Vetus Kirkos is the capital city, I guess. Seems like.
I think
so.
Castle that everything goes on in.
I do. So one thing that I love about the map, like absolutely love about the map, is all the little details of the thing. Like, so for example, if they're portraying a tower, there will be a little picture of a tower, and it will be like it will be representative of how that tower actually looks. It's not some like placeholder tower model that they slap on all the towers.
Yeah.
Like the image before Vitas Kirkus, which appears to be the capital.
Yeah.
It looks like probably what the city looks like. It looks different from all the other cities, not that there are that many of them. And like the Quilt Lands.
Yeah,
that just paints a picture in my mind.
Yeah.
Like I can see it like when
or
you're
like
in an airplane.
The Sentinels. I love the Sentinels, which are these appear to be like massive statues that sit between the Blackened Lands and the Kingdoms of Light.
Are those the same statues that are in the interlude thing?
I don't think so.
No. We're going to definitely talk about the intermissions. I just realized something really... I feel really dumb. I know it's called pitch. It's pitch black.
Yes, Eric.
I don't know. I was like, that's kind of a weird name, but yeah. We got Iron Coast, the Dawn Coast.
Yeah, and Alfaj Coast, Ravta Coast, and Svartur Coast.
Yeah,
as like 3 port cities.
That is really
I'm
weird.
Interested in Highguard, which appears to be some maybe kind of like mountain pass keep thing.
What is it guarding though?
Yeah, that's a great question.
Maybe there's like something like forces not associated with the dark, but are still like barbarians type of stuff.
Like wildlands or something.
Yeah.
Just the
it's like
river.
What is beyond the edges of this map?
Yeah.
Whenever I look at a map, I always like kind of keep the different places in mind to see when we actually show up at that place, and then I have a mental reference of where we are.
I do like when they're traveling, we get to hear of a lot of these places in the Blackened Lands that are on the map. Good, because I hate when we're passing this and it's not on the frickin' map. God.
Can we talk about how the compass looks like the Cosmere symbol?
It does. Oh my god.
Oh my god, it totally does, though.
There are actually a lot of little references. Like at one point, Paul told what's her name? His sister.
Nika.
He's like, "Why are you so cryptic?" I was just cracking up at that.
And it's like
then how he lives in the alloy, Law and Sons. Yeah.
And there is like a conversation about hatred at one point.
Yeah.
Passion of hatred.
Yep. And the fact that Nika is like practically Syl for the first chapter.
Yeah. In a sense. The port cities being named in these very specific ways that are different from everything else is very interesting, you know?
Oh, they do have this. I was gonna say like Nordic vibe, but it's not
kind of like that.
Mhm.
Yeah, because like Svart is
Yeah.
like the Svartalves were the
Yep.
Dark Elves.
Oh, by the
And-
Blackened Lands. Hey,
yeah.
there you go.
Yeah.
Yeah, and
Language is
like
this-
opposite
this-
of them, all the way on the other side, you have the Alphicust or Alphage, but it's probably Alphi.
Yeah.
I think that's a J.
Yeah. Yeah, but
Oh,
in
what are-
Nordic like
pronounced
fjords, right?
A Phi.
Oh, what are the light elves called?
Look.
I think they're just elves because they're the default.
Well, I know there's not just the Svartalfheim.
Yeah, I think the other one is Alfheim.
Yeah.
Oh
looks
no,
like
no,
it.
there's the Leosofar.
Yosifai.
never mind.
Okay.
Okay, it's not something similar enough.
But like Alf is a like
Yeah.
related morpheme.
Yeah, but obviously all of them have like Kust there, which
Mhm.
Mhm.
Could
implies
be like
some
ports or
linguistic.
something.
And it is so interesting that we have. Oh my god, this is like the tiniest detail ever, but it's so fascinating, right? Because you have similar naming convention
Yeah.
in both the Blackened Lands and the
Mhm.
Kingdoms of Light,
Yup.
which implies things.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Mhm.
it does.
That's what book 2 is about, the port cities.
It
Like I want a story about the port cities at this point.
well, it almost like if they're like elves and stuff or something like that. There's probably more races on Mirandus that we haven't seen, right? Like that's not surprising in any way, right?
Well, yeah, like those giant, like long-legged horse-looking things, or
yeah, that
camel
we don't have a
things.
name for. Yeah.
Like where the
Oh
heck
yeah,
we've seen
Yeah.
once.
Those reminded me of a creature from the Dark Crystal,
Yes, exactly.
which Longstriders?
They do have a long stride, that's for sure.
Land Striders is the name.
Mm,
80s.
yeah. Law and Sons Alloy Company Limited. Hilarious.
Yeah.
I don't know. I don't think that just means anything. I think that's just a fun reference. But
It's like an Easter egg.
but the compass being a lot like the Cosmere symbol is a little weird to me.
I think that's an Easter egg.
Yeah.
Easily, yeah.
Yeah.
But I think it's a fun one.
Yeah.
Mhm.
What other like art and visual things do you guys want to talk about, if any?
Like cool panels and pages and artistic parallels, maybe, if we come up with any.
You know, that actually reminds me, like Malmahan and Krasis, for some reason, like before Malmahan like uses his powers and goes crazy, their faces look real similar to me.
They have a heavy brow,
Yeah.
and dead
They-
eyes.
Krasis is Malmahan's son. I
Sure.
don't think the timeline works on that.
No, I don't
'cause
think so.
They did not look similar at all to me, but like Malmahan gives me massive Joker vibes, and also his face
Yeah.
like looks so much like a skull to me.
Mhm.
And like especially in a lot of panels, his lips are virtually non-existent.
Mhm.
Like if you look like 115, where he's in his suit, it's got that heavy brow, right? And hair like that. Versus if you scroll down just a little bit more to where Theodora fights Krasis. Like they both have like similar hair and brow styles. Like on page 120, 121. It just is weird to me. That's what occurred to me.
I think that's part of the art style.
Yeah,
More than
it well
anything.
could be. Well,
Because I think if they were supposed to, if the reader was supposed to pick up on the fact that they look similar, they would look more similar than that.
yeah, I guess.
Or maybe it's just trying to convey a feeling about these characters. Just,
Yeah.
when you look at a person, you immediately make judgments, even if you don't want to, just based on how they look.
Yeah.
Yeah.
True.
The beauty advantage.
I love all the 2-page spreads. Like, those all
Mhm.
looked so cool.
Yeah. We have the one of, I guess it's the pitch, right?
Yeah.
With like the armies of the Blackened Lands
Hmm.
and the, God, what are they called? The Iron Keepers?
Iron
Was
Keepers,
that the automatons? Yeah. Kind of arrayed like like Bioshock Big Daddies almost.
They kind of are Bioshock Big Daddies,
Yeah.
though.
Now, are they robotic or are they soul infused?
It seemed like they're
things.
soul infused because that's why he had to
Yes.
Because they have
kill
that
Rastic,
glow in
right?
their eyes.
Mhm.
Yeah.
Yeah, that
Yeah.
red
I
glow.
I
which,
think both.
yeah.
So have they been around for a very long time, or are they just then created when? No, I think they were around
I-
before Paul.
They
They
were
were
because
around
they
before.
because they were on the steps as he was
Yeah.
walking up to the pool. But like, I think he needed to infuse them with souls using his Dark One abilities, I guess.
Yeah, like he has to infuse them as his own iteration of the Dark One in
Mm.
order for them to activate. His ability to soul infuse objects are probably tied to him. So if like he were to die, those would, like, future Dark Ones couldn't use objects he created,
I think that's reasonable, yeah.
but they could repurpose those objects in the same way.
I think it was Malmahan who actually created those.
You mean Carcoon? Or do you mean Malmahan?
I didn't mean Carcoon, but I could be wrong.
Does Malmahan mention them?
No,
I don't
so
remember that.
I think when Rastic tells Paul about them, like the first time they walk into the city, like when he introduces the Iron Keepers, I think he mentions that there. But it could very well be Carcoon.
Doesn't say Malmahan, but like the whole place was built by Carcoon, and then like it's just the automatons are there, the Legion of Empty Death. It's waiting for your power to come.
A cool name, the Legion of Empty Death.
Yeah. It also seems like Rostic is talking about when Paul's right above the well and is like thinking of grabbing it. He says, even Malmahan, uncalled by the narrative and unchecked by destiny, which is interesting. He who nearly ripped the world asunder, even he was just a man before the well. Do you feel it, sire? Do you hear it call your name? So like maybe the well itself was calling to him.
That seems likely, yeah.
Because we were talking a little bit between the episodes that it was kind of weird how Paul like heard voices. Like it says murder and do it in the art.
There's a part of me that thinks that's just his inner Dark One nature manifesting.
Yeah.
Like as he's getting closer to the point in the narrative where he becomes the Dark One, it's like seeping backwards in time-ish, if that makes sense.
Mm-hmm.
It does, but I don't like it.
It's like echoes of something that's happening in the future.
Yeah, not a fan of that.
That phrase unchecked by destiny makes me think that there isn't a destined one to fight Malmahan. What is his name?
Malmahan.
Marmalade.
Yeah. Marmalade. Yeah, that's it. Everyone
Like,
does.
Unchecked by destiny just makes it seem like now he doesn't have anyone to fight. Like there's no one there to stop him.
Well, maybe, but it's also kind of the common lore on Miranda's that there was no destined one to fight Marmahan.
Yeah, it does seem to imply that as unchecked by destiny. I think that's what that means.
And so, but this circles back to the thing we talked about in the previous episode, where maybe there was one, but they got offed by
Yeah.
And we were speculating
Ilarion.
that Ilarion, he pretended that he was the one who defeated Marmahan, but he actually just imprisoned him.
And maybe he did. Like maybe the defeat was just not the kind of defeat a destined one inflicts upon a Dark One. So like he was victorious, but not in the traditional sense. And so as far as everyone else is concerned, there was no Destined One. It was just the previous Destined One, like, doing an amazing feat and defeating the Uncalled One.
I think that's possible. Ilarion could have done that. There may also just not have been a Destined One. I think both are totally plausible.
Yeah.
So it's hard to say. Can I mention something I just noticed?
Yes.
It's about the intermissions. And we talked about the intermission about Carcoon in the last episode a lot, but there's a part like near the end where it's like, Kingdoms of the Light Defiant, lend an ear to he who'd see you buried low. And you know what's super interesting is just like literally 3 pages later, one of the drulls is like, the light has come, the Kingdom of the Light Defiant, lend an ear to he who'd see you buried low. It's like literally in the dialogue.
Oh, wow, really?
Yeah, it's totally serious. Yeah.
Prophetic history being written.
yeah. But like, no, it's right there. And I was just noticing it scrolling. I'm like, Kingdoms of the Light Defiant? It's like, no, that was directly in the intermission. It's
sweet.
Page 157 in the PDF, by the way. Like, that's super cool. So, like, that means something.
Maybe Carcoon's words just got either remembered in history, or there are, like, narrative echoes throughout time.
Sure.
And it just happens that specific words or phrases or sentences show up again and again.
Or
like religious text.
And like William Shakespeare wrote a lot of stuff. He's the bard, like he's a storyteller. Like he coined a lot of words in English. Like he is connected to narratives in a very like intrinsic way. So like he very easily could have like somehow tapped into the narrative itself, like become a conduit and written those words that I don't know if like what he wrote was like an accurate depiction of what happened to Carcoon. Like he might have like foretold that those words would be said, that they would be part of the narrative.
But it's real weird how a man from Earth, Bill Shakespeare, was telling the story of the first Dark. Like, so there's some options here, right? So one of them, he could have just been writing something that he thought was a story, and then it actually like ended up tapping some greater truth about the Earth,
hearing an echo or from the narrative or something.
Say about the Cosmere,
capital C connection, you know.
Yeah. I saw you. You were about to make that comment.
Oh yeah, I totally was. Yeah.
So he could have been doing that. He could have like literally known Carcoon, and like in some way he could have told him his story. It's possible.
I mean, like there's transit between the worlds.
Yeah.
William Shakespeare could have known a Mirandan or something.
Yeah.
Lots of possibilities.
Sure. Or he could have just heard of this story and then decided to turn it into a play. I don't think that he was Carcoon.
Plot twist. William Shakespeare was Carcoon.
Dun dun dun. Oh man, that is just so cool to me. I'm so glad I noticed that. That was the exact same line later. So cool.
Yeah, that's great.
Kind of want to talk about these other intermissions, which objectively have less to talk about because there's way less text, which is helpful. But like maybe we should.
It's a good segue.
Like, what a Brandon thing to do, to have some interludes here to confuse us real good, and like even more confusing us when there's no text, and then we just have to look
what he wrote to have the artist draw that. Like, I want to see what notes he gave the artist.
Yeah.
to come up with a scene like that. Because I mean, it's hard to depict a whole story with no words. It really is, and it does.
Yeah. Because like the first intermission, the first story told, like people are chopping down wood and like
carving the masks.
Well, so I wanna steal the show real quick because the first interlude and the parallel with the epilogue are some of the things I super love.
Yes. And it's like that does tie in to a comment like I wanted to make. Which is like throughout the most of this, it's like there's like the two boxes, like two frames side by side, and then the second to the last one, the destined one figure, like their arm crosses over the frame, and then in the next one, it's bloody. The knife is covered in blood, and the dark one is gone.
It sounds like that one was killed. Yeah, the dark one.
Yeah,
but comparing it to the one later on.
Yeah.
Where it's like reacting it in reverse, they don't kill the other Krull. Like there's like red streamers instead of actual blood. So it's like the humans like kill people as part of this ritual. The Krull don't. Which ones are actually evil?
And so the second one happens in the epilogue.
And then that word, I don't know how to pronounce it. Purgator. That shows up in the flashbacks of the serial killer.
Yep. He writes those words
in like a couple panels. It's there. So what does that mean? Like I couldn't figure out from contextually, like trying to figure out what it means.
I googled it and I did not find anything.
Well, so it's not a real word. I was trying to like tie it to something actually linguistic. Like so, for example, it loosely invokes the idea of purgatory to me. Like it has some of the phonemes. So close. I don't know words, man.
I think it's phonemes, not phenomes.
I don't know, but I do want to say that Purgator is clearly just a very mean alligator in Florida. I mean, it makes sense. It's a serial killer alligator that lets him jump between Miranda's
cameo.
Yeah, it actually is. Yeah, everyone knows that.
So it is phoneme. So screw.
Okay. Well, all right. Well, fine. That's fine for me to look like a fool. That's just fine.
But yeah, it does show. So, but I couldn't find anything that like worked linguistically with that.
Question for Brandon at the.
That's a good question. It's a good question. But like,
sounds like a Rafa though.
Yeah.
The parallel that I really liked between the first intermission and the epilogue that Ian stole my stealing of the show was that to me, like they very much show this kind of origin story, right? And one of them is from the human perspective, and the other one is from the Drow perspective. And they obviously tell these stories very differently, and I thought that was really, really cool.
The impression I got is the Krull story is being told differently because of what Paul did. Like, finally, the Dark One did win.
Oh, okay. Interesting.
Oh, because it is in modern day.
Yeah.
Whereas the other one, so the first one, the first story, right?
Yeah.
To me, that read, this was the first story ever told. This was the like dawn of time type of stuff. Okay, but yeah, good call.
Which is really interesting because it looks like, you know, very native, long before anything, but like light and dark. But like presumably this is long before Carcoon, even, right? So this is like echoes of the narrative itself long ago, because the narrative seemed to exist pre-Carcoon, right? Because Carcoon was referring to the narrative,
right.
Even though Rustic is saying that Carcoon set the narrative in motion, but it kind of existed. This is just interesting.
Ties into my theory from last episode that Carcoon stuck the narrative into a loop. So, like, he set the narrative into a new motion. Maybe.
Danielle, what do you think?
Yeah, when we were talking about it in the last episode, we were saying that Earth and Miranda's were kind of intertwined. And so at the beginning they were talking about Mirandus having the Bane, and now
Mhm.
the narrative might have changed from what it originally was because of Carcoon, because Carcoon kept saying he was going to come back using these boys from Earth.
Yeah, it's like stolen the destiny, as Ilarion said. Do we think this depiction in this first intermission is on Earth or Mirandus?
Never thought about it really. I just
Yeah.
always defaulted to Mirandus.
That was also the impression I had. But if it was on Earth, then it would make more sense that that story was being told before Carcoon happened. Because, like, the narrative timey-wiminess.
And it also may have been just a story.
Mhm.
Right? So like a myth, essentially. Nothing like, well, nothing to it. Just a story and a play that people tell and act by the fire.
But they,
And kill people.
yeah, the girl actually drew blood. Like,
Well,
that was
a little
very
bit.
different from.
A little
Yeah.
blood.
I mean, I think
That's
it's
a
pretty
big
clear
knife.
that the light just killed the Dark One. There, like that's what that's signifying to me. Let's maybe talk about the second intermission, which is called the Garden of Stone. So we have a lot of statues. It looks Greco-Roman, right?
It does.
And
And the
then-
statues look like they are Destined One, Dark One,
Yeah, because
or human droll.
Yeah, because there's like a drawl, or is that a drawl, or like more like one of the like almost like a Dark One mask?
I think that's a Dark One mask.
It's looked
One
like
of
a
them
Dark One
definitely
mask.
looks like a mask to me. Yeah, with the lines.
Yeah.
So first of all, I can't make anything of this intermission. I have no idea what's going on.
I think it's just
only
like
3
another
2 pages.
another
Yeah.
iteration of this story being told.
Yeah, because that would make
So-
sense for all 3 intermissions.
So do we think this one takes place on Earth?
I think they all have to take place on Earth.
Ooh, yeah,
'Cause,
that's
like-
a good point.
Well, not the draw one.
No,
Oh, the last intermission
no,
is not.
that's-
That's the
yeah.
epilogue.
that's the epilogue. Yeah, that's
Yeah,
not
Yeah,
the same.
because it's ancient times telling this story, like
Mhm.
Greco-Roman times telling
Mhm.
this story, and
And
then
Shakespeare.
telling this story.
Mhm.
Mm.
All
And
right,
it's like
yeah.
this, like just reinforcing the tie between Earth and Mirandus.
Yep. Okay.
I dig it. I dig it.
I dig it. I'm in. All right. I'm satisfied. We're figuring things out, kind of, maybe, sort of.
So what does that tell us, actually? Ilarion thinks, or at least says, that Earth stole Mirandus's narrative.
Do you think that just might mean that Earth is telling stories of that? Because, like, he does say, like, on Earth we are but the fuel of bardic stories. So, like, I'm not sure how much he really means that they literally stole the narrative. Like, maybe there's an aspect to that, but it could also just mean that's like Earth's been telling the story of Mirandus in many ways for a very long time, in a sense, because he would know.
As a bardic story.
Yeah,
like,
right.
He's saying the people from Earth don't understand that you guys are real. They're just telling this as a story.
Yep.
But
Crack
also,
theory.
they're
Yeah,
Go ahead.
Daniel.
they're giving up people from Earth to be part of that story. So they're like inserting themselves into Mirandus's narrative. And maybe that's what they mean by they're stealing the narrative. Like they're
Mhm.
kind of putting themselves into the place of
Legends, ideals.
yeah.
Which would lead nicely into Ilarion's it's time to take this back. It's time to make the
Mhm.
Destined One and the Dark One be of Mirandus.
That's what he's trying to edit.
Crack
Okay.
theory.
Uh-huh.
Oh no.
What? And this like totally breaks everything I've said before.
Okay.
What if the reason the narrative is cyclical and like there's always a new Dark One and always a new Destined One is because Earth keeps telling this story. What if that's how Earth stole the narrative? Like, it took this story and it keeps retelling it pretty much blow by blow with slight differences, and that's forcing Mirandus to keep reliving it. I don't think that goes full on into Mirandus being story world. That I don't necessarily know is accurate, but it's an idea.
I think it gives Earth too much control over Mirandus in this scenario, and I don't like that.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's a neat idea, but it makes Earth the main character in a way.
Yeah.
And
kind
I
of
don't
like the
that.
never-ending story where, the story was in the book. And so that's actually admittedly what I was originally thinking when I was starting to read this. Before I got into the whole story, I was like, what if Mirandus is a product of the imagination of Earth, and they're just like pushing their narrative onto this fictional story where they're like prejudice and there's oppression, and it's stuck in a loop because that keeps happening. There's always this pattern of prejudice and oppression. So that was my original thought, which I don't really hold by it completely, but I like the idea that it's there.
Yeah, I think framed this way, it holds more water.
I'm just going back to what Malmahan said, so it seems relevant. He's like saying, this world is a cage, you're trapped in it, same as me. And then he talks about the device that he's using that trapped the souls. And I'm like, I'm just wondering why he thinks it's a cage for Lynn, in a sense.
Is she from Earth?
I think the direct read is that she is just not the world hopper.
Yeah. It's just interesting how he's like saying how like this world doesn't matter, like Earth is an echo, which is just interesting to where Ilarion says where like Earth is very important and like stole the narrative. Well, Malmahan thinks it's like, Earth doesn't really matter, it's an echo. Who cares? Which is interesting.
Yeah, I always struggle with this contradiction between these two sources of lore.
Yeah. Because they're both probably wrong in some way, right?
They're both wrong and they're both evil.
Yeah. And then there's Paul.
And Paul is dreaming about Mirandus, but he's not really dreaming because he said he doesn't dream, but he sees Mirandus out the windows and in his mirrors and stuff. Like there's something weird going on with Paul. It's just so fun that this graphic novel has so much to think about and so many questions for the next book.
Really does.
And at face value, it doesn't, because you read it so fast and you're like, oh, well, that was a story. But it's like it's a whole new universe to play around in.
There's just random lines like with the sheath, the sword that guards the light of Mirandus. Like, I don't even know what that means. Like,
I hope it means something good and not just the
no
creepy thing.
Speaking of Malmahan, we did realize in the break between recording these that we literally didn't talk actually about the epilogue of what happens at the end. So maybe we should talk about that. That might be
not even the epilogue, like the court, like the courtroom finale.
Yeah.
We didn't mention the Perigator at all.
Yeah. So Lynn shoots Malmahan, and back in Mirandus, Paul's, like talking about how like they won and stuff. Then there's a transformation where Paul gets sent back to Earth right in the courtroom scene. And naked. And which I like that Volume 2 will start with Paul back on Earth again. That's a nice parallel to how this one started.
Kind of grounds it.
Yeah. And then, in the epilogue, we see, again, the same thing that was in the first intermission from the Droll perspective. And then Malmahan is like himself as the Dark One, and he's like, long live the Dark One. And Lynn is there, and she's like bound in red
By his magic.
By his magic. And so I guess Malmahan is taking the mantle of the Dark One again.
But it's interesting that he doesn't have the black and red speech bubble when he says that.
That's a good point. That kind of signifies that he is different, right?
Mm-hmm.
Perhaps. So it's possible, but my read was just giving him different Dark One speech bubbles than Paul to make
that's
him different.
Yeah, because when you're shrouded and
black
hooded
and
like
white.
that. Yeah. Because Malmahan did drink from the pool, as Rostic said, right? He did drink from the pool. But
yeah, I guess that's what happens when just somebody random makes their way to the pool and drink.
Maybe
Somebody who's not.
Random people can't drink from it. Like Rastic says, like only future Dark Ones can drink from this.
But that is like he could just be retelling the age-old lore of the narrative. Like that's only future Dark Ones can drink from the pool because only Dark Ones have ever drank from the pool. Or rather, everyone who ever drinks from the pool is and or becomes the Dark One. And so, yeah, that's of course that's what he's gonna say. Like he's operating with limited information, possibly.
He said, "Okay, so the Well of Sorrows is not filled by mortal hands. In times of dark, in times of light, it remains anew. Nor can its waters be cupped or consumed by mortal hands." And then Paul says, except mine and those who came before you.
So they can't even like pull the water out of the well to drink it.
I don't think so.
It can't be cupped by hand.
And going into like the Paragator, this spell that Malmahan enacted to get himself and Lynn back to Mirandus. And it also seems responsible for shoving Paul back into Earth.
Yeah.
In like the same location. I think either as part of that spell or as part of the narrative itself, like there can only be one Dark One in Mirandus.
Mm-hmm.
Like the narrative can't accept more than one Dark One. So for Marmalade to return, Malmahan, I couldn't remember.
Hey, look, I love it. I love it.
To
Marmalade.
return, like Paul, like had to be shunted out.
So you think that blue and black like power is Miranda's like ejecting Paul from?
It's either like some like twisted form of the narrative, like some part of the Paragator spell. I'm not sure, but
here's the thing. This graphic novel has been pretty consistent in its color language.
Yeah.
And so the fact that the spell that pulls Paul away from Mirandus and back on Earth is not red.
Yeah.
To me suggests that it's not a part of Malmahan's spell.
And I just looked when Malmahan died and there wasn't that color there. There wasn't that.
But there was
like
a lot of red.
Bright red. Yeah.
Yeah. It's kind of hard to tell because it's just his face in red. So when it happens.
What if it's the narrative trying to protect Paul from Malmahan? Because I don't think Malmahan would be okay with there being another Dark One. I think one of his first actions would have been to kill Paul.
Well, so here's what I think happened. He didn't need to take Lynn, if I recall correctly. He needed Lynn to shoot him.
Mm-hmm.
And so this is a separate can of worms, by the way, and I do want to open that a little later, but like, why the hell did he need Lynn specifically to do that for him?
Well, he didn't.
He
needed to be executed, not necessarily by Lynn.
He mind controlled an entire courtroom of people. Like he could have done that.
But then that would have been suicide.
Yeah, that would have
not
been him
execution.
doing it.
Yeah, I don't think he could have mind controlled someone to do that.
I don't know about
So
that.
instead he peer pressured someone into it.
Yeah, yeah.
Maybe. maybe, but he also says that I believe the phrase he uses is only you can do whatever.
Yeah.
Like it seemed directed to her specifically.
I kind of want to read what Malmahan said at the end. Can we like parse through that? Because I think there's interesting stuff to pick through. So can I go do that?
Yeah, and I do want to come back to what I think happened, but I think this read may nudge my brain.
There's a lot rereading it. There's a lot more in here than I initially expected. So
there is. So this is actually one of the things I had a feedback on. Is like this section felt so info dumpy to me and so heavy.
Mm-hmm.
So right when the Droll are reenacting what the first intermission said, there's a black box that says, "I thought it would be me. Malmahan," they cried from the streets. "Save us, Malmahan! Curse the light, Malmahan! It was my cycle that broke the narrative, mine that nearly brought this whole cursed place to ash. But not my victory to enjoy, more's the pity. Perhaps if it had been mine, I'd not have appreciated it so when it arrived, the triumph. Perhaps I'd not spend so much time preparing for what's next. Thinking on the past only cheats one of his future. And what a future we have here, counselor. Your son saw to that. But now he is gone from this place, which means as far as any of those little idiots will soon know, the Dark One is dead. So, long live the Dark One."
Oh, that scene. I thought you were going to read the courtroom thing.
Oh no, I was gonna read the way at the end. We could read the courtroom scene too, because there's tons of crap there too.
Yeah, this one didn't seem too shocking to me. Like my read is, hey, I broke the narrative, but Paul kind of stole the victory lap from me, and now everyone thinks he's the one who broke the narrative. But now I'm back, and he's gone, and I am the new dark. Like I am the Dark One in the post-narrative era.
What is he referring to when he's like, "Those idiots will soon know the Dark One's dead"? And then he's like,
Paul is gone, so like they would assume he's dead.
Yeah, so I guess Malmahan isn't just like gonna directly control the Drull that was loyal to Paul.
Like he won't take the mantle of the Dark One.
Maybe. Like it's
I
just
think
weird.
he will. It's like, hey, Paul is gone, but I'm back. Like, I don't think the Droll necessarily care who the Dark One is.
Yeah.
Now the narrative is broken. How is it going to have a destined one to fight him? And he's a previous Dark One, so
There was no destined one there.
Mhm.
I wonder if the narrative is just like, yeah, Malmahan's previous rise was bad, but like I'm saving the destined one of Malmahan for like this moment of Malmahan or something. And so it's like, no, it still works. It's just been waiting. I don't know.
Maybe that'd be interesting.
Mhm.
Like I do think we will see a destined one, a real destined one.
Talking more about that, talking about the narrative, do we think the narrative is a conscious, aware thing, or is it just nebulous fate? It happens because it happens. Or is there like something directing the narrative that is itself the narrative, if that makes sense?
I think it's like a river. So it has a direction, it has like a path that it follows, but is not in any way sentient on its own.
Okay.
viewed it as like reactionary. Like in response to this stimulus, it does something else.
Yeah.
It tries to go back to that path, like the river, like gravity pulls it towards something, but it has to react to something that's going on, the edits and the deletions from the Dark One and the Destined One.
Yeah.
Because like there's a part of me that wants it to be aware and has been planning for something greater. Like that it has plans for Paul. Like Paul didn't break the narrative. Like the narrative just put him in a position to change itself, which is complicated.
I think it feels too deific, too divine.
But I definitely think the Mirandians do view the narrative as divine. I don't think they have gods. I think they worship the narrative.
Mhm.
I would just point out that in Shakespeare's Carcoon thing, Carcoon talks about God, capital G, which is interesting.
He does, yeah.
But you're
Which would be
totally right. The
consistent.
modern Mirandans totally don't seem to have that, and like in the narrative is their god. I
The
agree.
Carcoon is from Earth, right? So
Probably.
Carcoon would probably be
Probably,
thinking of
yeah.
the
Or it's
god
an
of Earth.
artifact of it being written by an Earthling.
Yes.
True, yeah.
No, because I think that happens in Carcoon's like actual speech. Like Shakespeare would write that in character.
Yes, but he's still writing it as an Earthling, where God is an important being.
And maybe God fits better than narrative in the iambic pentameter.
He's writing for like a human audience.
Yeah, but he does make references to the narrative.
It's interesting because if Earth is all like real and Mirandus is all real, there's two different paths and two different religions or, creations and two different storylines for both of those planets or places, whatever they are. I'm still tied into that. I'm still tied into that where they're intertwined and they're not supposed to be.
The cosmology of it is so fascinating, right?
And that there's other worlds too.
Yeah, and that's not even factoring the other worlds, right?
Yeah.
Potential.
Did we want to read Malmahan talking right before Lynn shoots him?
So when Lynn is holding the gun up to his head, he's
Malmahan.
talking to her.
Yep.
Yes, Malmahan, yes. He's talking to her. He says, when a soul dies in their final moments, their emotions scream out and touch the narrative itself. With the right emotions, a man like me could do anything, even open a gateway, but I cannot walk through on my own. One last soul is required. Death is the door, Lynn. Death I cannot bring myself. A door you must choose to open to your remembering, to your love, to your son.
We can both step through. Just do it.
There's so much to unpack here.
There is. There really is.
And what does he mean by a man like me? Like, is he admitting that he's not actually the Dark One, but he's something else, and he has to do this special ritual by having someone kill him to walk through this door?
Or he could just be referring to generic Dark Ones, perhaps?
Yeah.
But
who...
Oh,
or the fact that he's Mirandan?
Well, I was thinking because the knight died when Paul went through.
Yeah, so let's talk about the emotion.
Oh, okay, sure.
With the sword.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Good point.
Because the knight is something I wanted to bring up.
Yeah, that's true.
When Paul, like during the final battle, when he uses the sword, he talks about how the knight hated him, which is why this weapon is so. Which is why when he bound the knight so into the sword, like that's why the sword is so good at killing things.
Yep. Right. Correct.
Mm-hmm.
So there is the concept of like utilizing a soul's like either overall emotion or like the final emotional state of a soul to like for fuel essentially.
And that's definitely like Dark One-y magic type thing.
Yeah,
with like
absolutely. Yeah, soul binding. And then when Malmahan first like possesses the entire courtroom, he talks about how all the people there hate him. No, they hate the idea of him.
Mm-hmm.
And that appears to give him control over them. And so it sounds to me like the magic of the Dark One, the person, the Dark One, or at least the magic of the well, is tied to like when you soul bind things, when you bind the soul of a person in an object, strong emotions like passions, extra power to the magical artifact you are essentially creating. This ties back to, at the very end, I think, when Paul drops back in the courtroom, when he's getting arrested. For a moment, he tries to use the magic of the Dark One. Like, we see the red flare around his hand when he grabs one of the policemen, and then it flickers away, like it goes away, which could be read in a couple of different ways. But the way I'm reading it is, these are people who've never seen this man. These are people who don't really feel anything for him, and so he's powerless against them.
Okay, that's interesting.
That could also be what makes the Dark One so powerful on Mirandus.
Because the Kingdoms of Light all hate him.
Yeah. All hate him, all fear him. Like, there's so much emotion there.
And
everyone knows the Dark One.
Revere him. They give him power by giving him this reverence.
Yeah. And there's the concept of like blood sacrifice, that the Drow like sacrifice themselves for the Dark One to gain power, which could also work into that.
Yeah,
I'm trying to think of it in like Cosmere terms.
I know it's yeah.
I mean, so it's a little bit like the Thrill.
Yeah, but I like that, because that makes a lot of sense, because Paul definitely is trying to use his Dark One ability, which means he hasn't lost his ability, which I think is interesting, with Malmahan going to Mirandus.
Yeah, I definitely read that as him losing his ability,
sure.
But I like Argent's idea way better.
I think so. That's another very fair reading of that, for sure.
Yeah.
So that's just a very interesting aspect of the Dark One magic, because even before the well, right, like, he's releasing that power to kill the knight, right? Because that's exactly what's happening. Because the knight.
Well, yeah, really he's binding the knight's soul to the sword. Now, what happens to the body, I have no idea.
Well, I mean, there was a giant explosion that he created, so, I mean, like, it's not just the soul binding. Like, he's definitely doing an active effect, and then the soul is bound in the sword. But, like, there's, right?
Yeah, that's fair. Because he also uses the sword as just, like, a destructive energy weapon, right?
Yeah,
like when you chop the heads off of all of those animals in a row.
Yeah,
that was cool.
Paul literally touches the sword, and then with that, then there's a giant explosion, and the knight's dead.
And in fact, if I recall correctly, the panel where he touches the sword has like, to me, it looked like the sword vibrates a little bit.
Yep. Yeah.
Which is not super meaningful, but it's like, oh, he's doing something to the sword.
He's doing something. Yeah, sure. Speaking of that, just as Paul gets to Mirandus, we get our one note of lightning, which is important lore, because Rostic talks about Mother Storm and Father Lightning, which is interesting. So there's some lore there that isn't really touched upon by anything else of this narrative Dark One, Destined One mythology. There is
like a lot of times in the sky you will see lightning bolts. So like, this is the electricity themed world Brennan has been talking about for a while.
Is it?
I think so.
I thought that was still going to be Cosmere.
I don't know, but he did connect the electricity world to Dark One.
Yeah.
And there's electricity here.
I always forget about the initial WoB where he talks about the electricity, and you always remember it, so I'll just trust you. No problem from me. But yeah, there is lightning, and that seems to have absolutely nothing to do with Dark One abilities or Destined One abilities. That just seems separate, which I'm interested to see how that connects and how, like, magic's used in other places, because I imagine something like that exists.
Yeah, I'd like to see a lot more of the warriors of the light, or whatever they're called, like that side. I'd like to see a lot more of their side of the story.
Yeah, they're like, there's soul binding, I guess, the draw. Like, we're getting back to that again, but like, it's still so confusing what Krasis is like doing or did, right?
Yeah.
idea.
And I just don't. When I saw his sword and when he said "I'm blessed" and his sword like lights up and it's all yellow,
Yeah.
it's like this is a new thing. We haven't seen anything act like that except for like except for the Dark One's sword has imbued with power, but his is red because of that. That's his thematic element. But
and also when Paul draws Krasis' soul from him, or the souls of the droll, whatever.
Yeah.
It is yellow.
Yeah.
So we've seen red magic, yellow magic, and blue magic.
Yeah.
Black, blue, yeah.
Yeah, the black blue is kind of like the lightning. I mean, the black's kind of different than the lightning.
That's what makes me think it's Mirandus pushing him out.
Like the lightning's Mirandus magic, like base Mirandus.
Yeah, like it's the land wanting to get rid of one because there's not supposed to be two in there.
There can only be one Dark One.
Yeah, it's the Dark One, not the Dark Two. Come on. We're not doing rule of two rules here. Come on. That'd be ridiculous.
I guess this puts us back to me trying to figure out what the hell happens in the courtroom, right? Because at some point, what I thought was happening, and I'm still not sure whether I'm I like this idea or not, was that Malmahan doesn't need Lynn to come with him, right? He chooses to take her, or he chooses to offer her to join him to go through or something, and then she agrees. I don't know. And like, but my impression was that he only needs her to shoot him, to kill him. And the reason, and as a byproduct of her joining him, there is now an imbalance of souls or something. And so Paul gets kicked out.
So you think it's because Lynn is in Mirandus that Paul gets kicked out?
At one point I thought that. I don't know if I still like that idea.
Okay.
But I thought that if Malmahan went alone, then that wouldn't necessarily happen.
I want to point out that right as Malmahan is starting to use his magic, he's like, "You are right and wrong. You will be my champion. I have no doubt." Talking out to Lynn. Like, so there's this champion aspect too.
Wait, champion or counselor?
Says champion. Yeah.
It's like, I just think that Paul being shunted out has to be tied to Malmahan and not his mother, because she's not another Dark One. It's like, it has to be tied to there being another Dark One.
Well, she's not another Dark One, but she is of Earth.
And she has Paul's blood. You know, they're related.
Yeah, but like, I think there's probably a lot of Earth Miranda stuff that you could get. Like, and there's still the matter of how Zoran has a frickin' portal, and just is like, yeah, you don't even need an incantation to go through this. Just walk through, easy peasy. Yeah. What's up with that?
Like, I don't think there's a fixed number of Earthlings allowed in Mirandus. Like, I think there's more interplay.
Fixed number of Dark Ones. I could believe that.
Sure. I'm okay with this. Not super married to the idea.
But interesting that Malmahan has a plan for Lynn with like a champion thing.
Yeah, I didn't pick up on that in my read.
Yeah.
I think I must have read it as companion.
No. It says champion.
God, that's so weird.
Now I want to go read it again.
I know. Well, I as we're doing this, if I'm looking over here, I'm just scrolling through this. It's just like, well, do I see anything interesting?
That's why I'm looking down and looking at it on my phone.
Sorry, video viewers, but we're just like, what's happening? We're just scrolling through. Whee!
Yeah, I did notice a lot of things on my second scroll through.
Droll through, am I right?
Also the whole death is a door concept.
Yeah.
I like.
Why is he not dead?
Oh, that's a good point, actually. Like, why is Malmahan not dead?
Because on the second panel, of like Lin shooting him,
Mhm.
there's a bullet hole in his head.
Yeah.
Like you see very little of it, but it's there. Like he did get shot. It's not that the act of somebody executing him gave him all this power. Did he use so first of all, he goes around, kills a person each year for 28 years or 25 years or whatever it was.
28, you said.
Yeah, I said that, but I wasn't confident the first time around.
Well, I mean, it's 15 plus 13. But yeah, yes.
And so he uses these souls to create this magical artifact,
Mm-hmm.
the Paragator. And so presumably he is either soul binding
Mm-hmm.
in the same way that Dark One is, or he's doing like he's using the souls as like he's not binding the souls, but he's using the souls as like fuel to perform whatever it is that he wants to perform.
Mm-hmm.
And then when he's about to die, he's getting ready to activate this device. And so does he use his own soul to like feel a transfer to Miranda's and then using the souls that he's like stored or whatever to give himself a second life?
Refill.
Yeah.
Yeah, why is he alive in Miranda's? That is so weird. Why could he only get souls once per year? And he was like, yeah, of course that's how, yeah, I obviously just do one per year. That's how it works.
It's interesting that they're talking about years because they make such a point that there's no time in Miranda's. So what is a year on Earth compared to Miranda's?
At least they don't have a concept of time. Like, I think time.
Right, they don't have hours and minutes.
Yeah. But I see what you're saying. Yeah.
This is an excellent question, which ties into something I want to talk about.
Yeah. Yes.
And this gets into like ancient Greek mythology.
All right, great.
Oh boy.
Philosophy, not mythology. So in ancient Greek, there are two words for time.
Mm-hmm.
There's chronos, which is like chronological time, like
yeah.
minutes, seconds, years. And then there is kairos, which from Wikipedia is the right, critical, or opportune moment, the proper or opportune time for action.
You've mentioned
like,
this on the show before in a
I
totally
believe I
different
have because this is a
God.
concept I really like. And so like chronos is quantitative, kairos is qualitative.
Hmm.
And so
More
like
of a moment in time.
yeah, it's like so like Earth is like chronos, Mirandus is kairos. Like so like kairos, like you can't use like linear like sequential time to understand it because time just doesn't work that way there. So it's not like one day on Earth equals this amount of time on Mirandus.
Yeah. Okay.
It's like it functionally does not work that way, I think.
Have we seen evidence of the passage of time on Miranda's? Like
Dark when
physically?
Feotora kills her dad. It was dark. So I'm
Mhm.
assuming that that's a night cycle. But
Yeah, that's what I was
I
thinking.
was looking for like a passage of time, like if they eat like lunch at a certain time or something like that, you know, when they're traveling. But I didn't see anything like that. That's why when I was reading it, it felt like the whole thing happened in the course of one Earth day because it didn't feel like there was a lot of time passing, which I think was intentional by the artist and the storyline.
So it's like I think more time was passing on Earth, like 3 weeks passed on Earth.
Mm-hmm.
But that doesn't equate to the same sort of thing in Miranda's.
I feel like Paul and Feotora spent 2 days traveling. I feel like there was a frame that says 2 days later.
When they did the like neck hold handshake thing.
Yeah.
It was like nighttime there and they were like
it was a nighttime,
setting up camp or something.
So at least in that, it's like at least the world is not stuck in like 4 o'clock or whatever.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Maybe there's something wonky going on with time.
Yeah, but like Zoran or Lynn says there are no days there.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, they make
does.
it very
conscious
effort to say there's no concept of days or hours
Yeah.
or years.
And
So it's like there's a light time and a dark time.
Mhm.
It's not a unit of measurement.
Which this is why when I was referring to Mirandus and Earth as planets, but then I was like, no, because Mirandus does not feel like a planet. It just doesn't. It feels like it's a plane of existence, but not a planet that has a rotational cycle. Although you do see like moons or something in that one scene when Paul and Nika are going through.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you actually see a moon when Feotora is killing her father. There's like a night sky through like a door or a window, and there is a round white object in the sky.
probably not a dish.
Probably not.
I just really want to know why Malmahan just is like one for every year, just how it works.
Yeah.
We're just supposed to accept that. Like, what does that mean?
Well, so my read on that was actually just like a symbolic, hey, for every year I'm stuck in this prison, I will take a life. Not so much that he necessarily needs like,
or it's like the anniversary of when he got stuck here. It's like, it's been another year, gonna kill a person.
Yeah, but
Another
it seemed
year,
like he
another
needed
body.
enough souls to even make this work, right? You know? Like, it just seems like if you're a mass murderer, like, you can probably be a little faster than that, is what I'm saying. You know?
But
especially if you have awesome forgetting powers.
he is from Mirandus. Like, he needs to wait for the opportune moment. The Kairos.
well, but
Yeah.
that's why I thought it was symbolic, right?
Yeah.
And that's why I don't think it's also like when he says one last soul, right? It's not that he needs 29 souls, it's that he needs his own and the Paragator. I think only 2 of the panels, like when they're showing all the victims, I think only 2 of the panels have Paragator
Yeah, only 2.
written
Yes.
on them.
Yep.
And so I wonder if that's like if there was something specific or significant about these victims.
There's another panel with an image behind the corpse, and it looks kind of Mirandan, not earthly. Like it's this kind of foil-looking thing behind it, and I was wondering if that had a ritualistic reason for being there.
I don't think I've noticed that.
But
maybe.
I'm furiously
I drew it
scrolling
in my
back.
notes.
I'm furiously scrolling to these, and we're putting them on screen.
Drew it.
It's that's great. It's in the beginning, right? It's the prologue.
Yeah. And these are very grisly. Oh yeah, and then there is like a ritualistic symbol, like drawn in blood, I guess.
So question. The one panel where there's like just a shoe in red,
Mhm.
and then 2 panels later there's a bunch of pigs and the other shoe.
Oh.
Do we think he fed somebody to the pigs, or did he turn a woman into a pig?
I think he fed someone to the pigs.
Yeah,
Well, that's just
what
interesting that it's the same shoe.
But yeah, the same shoe. I definitely picked up on that too.
I did not pick up on that.
And so does that mean 2 victims then? Is my next question.
Yeah, that's
Or is this more of a matter of no, I think it's one victim. I know exactly. Okay, so I think what happened was the police thought there were 2 victims, right?
Yeah, okay.
I don't like my argument anymore. Anyway,
Because he says that there were 15 murders.
yeah,
He does.
Does he say 50? Because when Lynn talks to him for the first time, he asks, like, and tells him, "Are you going to confess to all the murders?" And he goes, "Which ones?" And she says, 15. And I think that clue. Well, okay, yeah, that's. Well, anyway, but what I thought was maybe the police thought there were 2 victims, one for this year and one for 2 years later, but actually the first one was a missing victim, and then the second one was actually a murder. But it doesn't hold any water anymore.
Good talk.
But it's interesting that it's the same shoe.
Because it is the same shoe.
Or maybe like a pair. Presumably a pair, actually. The more I think about it, the more weird it gets.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Because I was under the impression that the number of victims was important.
Yes, a number of years. That's just how it works.
But if it's the same shoe, that means that that's one less victim than they were counting.
Yeah.
And just so you know, I look back to where he's referring to the number of victims. Malmahan's just saying 15. Is that all they found? Like, he's just sassing it that way. And he continually refers to her as Mrs., which is just, interesting.
I mean,
And what is the last name? Sorry.
Yang Tennyson.
Tennyson.
Yeah.
Tennyson wife.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Which so I assume that is just Mirandan way of speaking, not him being an ass. He has
I think it's
other
both.
opportunities to be an ass.
Yeah,
I think
both.
it's both.
I think
It
it'd be both.
definitely feels like he's kind of like jabbing her, a successful woman.
Perhaps.
Oh, you're just a sheath,
I do really love the screen with the Destined One and Dark One. That spread, oh man, the art is just quite good. Wow, I don't even know where we're going with this, but this is just this is crazy. What if we veer a little bit back on track? Let's do some theories about what book 2 and 3 are going to be, and expectations, stuff like that.
I think Featora is going to go to Earth.
Yes.
I think that's a safe bet. Yeah.
It's reasonable.
And she's going to meet up with Paul.
I think that's a very safe bet.
Okay, that'd be interesting.
That'd be cool.
I think Theodora and Paul are going to hit it off.
Yeah,
I
would
kind of
like
want
that.
them to end up together.
I kind of like that too.
The shipping.
I'm very
angle.
much like that.
Yeah, I kind of like it.
I kind of feel like Carcoon's wife / lover, Kisil or whatever her name was, is going to end up being important. Not necessarily in a hey, we're gonna make this character kind of way, but hey, this character played a pivotal role in a moment of history that is very important, and we haven't really talked about her.
I think that's fair.
Because I think you don't name characters you don't need to name.
I want to know.
There's not a lot of named characters.
No, there's really not a lot of named characters.
There's Marcy, though. You guys remember Marcy?
No.
Well, good, because she's a throwaway character indeed.
One of the lawyers.
Yeah.
Oh,
not
right.
even
yes.
I think she may have been an assistant or something.
Secretary.
The coffee.
Yeah.
That may have been the coffee girl.
Look,
or
that
if she's
person's
not,
getting
the
Coffee girl was named Rebecca.
Yeah.
Oh,
these are
right.
These are Coppermind articles. We can crank those out real good. Rebecca, done.
Brings coffee to Lynn.
Yep. There you go. Art picture done. Nailed it. I want to know why the ports have such similar naming structure. I can't stop thinking about that, and it probably will not be relevant at all. But if there's dark elves and crap, what's up with that?
For the record, I think these are probably inhabited by humans.
Yeah.
I think it's just a nice linguistic connection to Earth.
Yeah.
I do think it's very interesting that one of them is in the Blackened Lands, and
Yes.
and one of them is on the border, and the other one is in the Kingdoms of Light.
Mm-hmm.
So, if they are inhabited by humans, then that raises some questions about who these humans are and what's their business. And
I do want Featora to have some intense self-reflection based off of her interactions with Paul. And now that Malmahan is back, I think she's going to realize that Paul is not as bad as a Dark One as Malmahan. That the Kingdoms of Light would be better off with Paul in control of the Dark.
I really think her story is going to be a big plot point in the next book.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, especially
Setting
with
it up that way,
forcing them to Paul and Featora to work together. That would be great.
Mm-hmm.
I think we got to learn more about Zoran. What the crap was going on with that. That's a major, we barely hear anything with that. because I just don't think that's like this book, like one of the books that's going to be like a main thing, I think, you know?
Yeah, this feels like the kind of thing where you learn a little bit more in book 2, and it's actually like a big point in book. So he's the ruin of the Mistborn trilogy, right? So there's the tiniest hint in book 1, and you don't even know anything about it. And then in book 2, you learn like a big revelation, but it's just a one big thing. And then book 3 is all about that.
It seems like main plot point material, and that we're just getting a very hint of, and it's tying into sequels. So we got to get that. Got to get some freaking lightning. Just saying, like, I get that.
I want to know who is or was the destined one supposed to be instead of Krasis.
Yes, we got to see a new destined one.
Mm-hmm.
Like, I do want to see that. And I want to see what powers the destined one can use and how, like, the specifics of that.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to see some deeper exploration of the Kingdoms of Light.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I would like them to not be an entirely monolithic culture. Like, I think it's okay for the Blackened Lands to be that way, because that's kind of the narrative purpose they serve. Like, there's this ball of evil, and it's interesting to see them on an individual level, right? The Drow have lives, but like the other side of that coin, I don't want the Kingdoms of Light to be this ball of sameness.
Do you want to see new locations and new people and different experiences and like cultures and stuff?
Yeah. I want to know where Nika went. Nika.
Oh, that's right. Because she's
at
not
the
there.
end,
At the
he's
end.
like, "Where is she?" You know, when he's getting captured by the cops and dragged away.
But he does have the necklace.
He does.
That's like the only thing that stayed on him.
Yeah.
Oh.
Yeah, that was a big question at the end. I was like, where the heck did she go?
Also, like, Nika is gone when he first enters Mirandus for like a while, you know?
Mhm, yeah.
Well, she kind of tails him, is my impression.
Mm.
And then kind of shows up for a moment when he's getting all buddy with Fiutora, and like gives him the stink eye when they start getting close, which confused the heck out of me when I was reading the thing like, because so the first time he goes in there and she shows up for a panel and is thinking to herself, "Oh, you're so close now." And in retrospect, what she's thinking is, "Oh, you're so close to the well, I can tell you all the things, I can show you all the things."
Mm-hmm.
And then he moves away, he moves towards the Kingdoms of Light, meets Fiutora. Nika sees that he's getting close with a citizen of the light, the Princess of Light. And that's why she's giving him the stink eye, because she's like, "No, you're going in the literal opposite direction of where I want you to go."
Mm-hmm.
She's also a frustrated younger sibling.
And in the beginning,
in that moment.
in the beginning, she says, "You can't get rid of me even if you wanted to." And he's like, "I could." She's like, "No, you can't." And now she's gone. Like, what's the connection there?
What's her fate? Yeah, like that's really important, I think.
I do like her outfit change between the worlds.
Yeah, that was a great outfit change.
The change in personality shocked me. Like, she felt so different in Mirandus.
Well, she's remembering what actually happened because she didn't know.
Well,
before.
when she grabbed his head like that and forced him to remember, that felt almost menacing. Like, she was like,
I don't think that at the very end she forced him.
I want to know what this landmine is. Like, what? Why was there a landmine? What does that have to do with anything? There's something.
Unfortunately, unlike the boombox, it is actually spelled out to be a landmine. So there's no doubt there.
Yeah.
Oh, it was meant to be a bear trap.
It's actually a Mirandian fruit.
Sure. I buy it.
Landmine flavored. Oh boy. Just what I wanted.
Spicy.
Mmm.
An explosion of flavor.
God. Boo. Boo. Boo.
Wow, that took you a while.
I got it. I don't know what else. Like I think we've touched on like most things. We may do an episode on that intermission and like read every bit of text in full and analyze that because like I think that there's an episode worth there, but
the Kirkun one.
Yeah, but like we're gonna get a lot more Dark One.
Be nice if we could like get the full text for that.
Yeah.
Because I wonder if there are some sneaky things hidden in the missing like 5 words or whatever.
Curse you, artistic depth! I just want to read it like a book.
Like that one hand with a leaf in it. Like I don't know what that symbolized.
I just love that it's just like, oh, William, like, dude, you got to make a different story. This sucks. I don't like
This
it.
is hogwash.
Yeah, this is hogwash.
I love it. Yeah.
I just noticed one line from that, like the boy Carcoon howls.
Yep.
So Carcoon was like,
Oh, he was young, is what you're saying?
was young. He was probably around Paul's
Puberty.
age.
Yeah, that's exactly what I was thinking.
Was Malmahan that age when he ascended?
I think
Or
so.
did he
If it
ascend?
was 28 years ago, he probably would have been pretty young.
And he does look like he's in his 40s.
Middle age.
Would he even age on Earth if he's a weird Mirandan with magical
so.
Dark One powers? Though, like,
I think if you're on Earth, like you are bound by chronological time. Like,
well, I guess more in the aspect of his magical abilities, right? Like, I agree he's bound by chronological time, but like, I don't know what the Dark One abilities. Like, I don't know. Well, like, we gotta know more about Malmahan. Like, one thing that we gotta see is Malmahan and Ilarion like fight again and learning more of that struggle. Like, we have to see more of that because there's a lot going on there that is probably very important.
And I think in the next volume, Lynn is going to be like a primary vessel for us to learn more about the Dark One, about Malmahan specifically, about the narrative.
Like, what purpose does Lynn have in Miranda's? Like, I have no idea, but
Well, she had some idea of it because her husband would tell her,
yeah.
"Oh, I'll only be a little bit." And she's like, don't
Yeah, but
stay
then-
too long. And he's like, well, there's no time.
So it's like, I'll be there as many days as I want because there's no days. So, but like, she forgot it and just
Yeah.
it's just interesting. It will be very interesting to see what her purpose is as Malmahan's champion is.
Champion.
And then they'll fight Dalinar.
Yeah.
Open a gateway to another world. And then we'll go right into the Battle of Thalen Field. It's like, oh, yeah, there is a lot of passion and hatred over here. What's up?
A world battered by storms.
Oh, the storms, easy. So you got that capital C connection. Let's break.
It's all working out. I did wonder if, especially with our recent WAB, but not necessarily WAB about Anguish, I did wonder if the Well of Sorrows was meant to be like a griefy type of shard.
Hard
back
to
when this was
say,
Cosmere.
but yeah, I mean, pools.
And there's lots of themes of death and loss.
It does make me wonder how Nika knew so much about it.
She did admit that she was in the dark about a lot.
Well, sure, but like she was a kid, an Earth kid, and she went to maybe Miranda's with Paul and like died 4 seconds later.
Mm-hmm.
How does she know so much about Miranda's, about the narrative, about the well, how the well is going to give Paul both knowledge and power? Like, that felt a little fishy to me.
Interesting. Yeah,
It's possible that dying keeps them from losing their memory.
Well, but she did lose her memory.
And even if she restored it, like, she never had the memory of the well unless their dad told them about it.
Yeah, it might just be because she's imprisoned by the power of the Dark One, that she might gain some intrinsic knowledge of that. Dark One
I hate
the
intrinsic
ability.
knowledge.
I mean, I think
It's the
that's
worst.
yeah. Look,
It only serves the narrative.
yeah. See, that's a great
Everything
excuse.
serves the narrative.
That's a great excuse. The narrative demanded that she know it, and that is an
Oh,
excuse that
no.
almost works in this, but is still somewhat of a cop out.
No.
But like the real reason why Nika knows about the well is that
Oh, no.
she will have learned about the well. So really, that's why she knows about it.
Yeah.
And that's
I felt-
really
I
the
felt that
Cosmere
coming.
connection, that capital C, of course, that we want, right?
You're
You're welcome.
I felt that. I thought I was safe
No,
in Miranda's.
No, you definitely
but-
weren't. The
No,
Cosmere
there's
symbol's
no-
on that map, taunting us. All right, do we have any final thoughts? Like we definitely talked more about lore, so we'll probably call this like Dark One lore, because we definitely did talk more about the lore and stuff.
Mhm.
It's pretty
Well,
cool.
and artsy things.
Yeah.
One thing that I appreciated on my second read of like the first chapter was that like the Dark One imagery was actually in like a few places on the walls as like the blinds in the doctor's office were, for
Mhm.
example, forming that, which I thought was a cool visual thing.
And I really like the use of color to denote different things, because it's almost like a character
Yes.
on its own. Like
Mhm.
it sets the mood and it sets the theme of that scene. And you can immediately tell when it's red what we're talking about, when it's
like the white.
bright. There's a bright blue sky. We know we're talking about the light people. And
I liked
Yeah.
in the end where Fiatora like is going to confront the Dark One, like the text bubbles are surrounded by a yellow outline. Like
Mhm.
she's just like yelling, like, yeah, we're the warriors of light here. It's like, what's up? Just really good usage of color, just all around.
Mhm.
It's pretty
Playing to the strengths of the medium.
Yeah,
like
no, seriously.
You should.
Yeah, you definitely should.
A couple of cool like visual things that I just didn't have a good time to mention before. There's a scene towards the end where, like just before the final battle, where Ilarion it looks like he's drinking whiskey. He's actually holding like a whiskey glass and there are ice cubes inside. And he has his like white wizard hat off. So it makes him look very, very earthly
Mhm.
in that panel, which probably has some kind of deep character meaning about how he doesn't really fit with Miranda's and he's really a person from Earth, and et cetera, et cetera.
Mhm.
he
Yeah,
uses some anachronisms and things too.
Yeah,
That's a fancy
from
word.
Earth.
Yep.
Oh yeah. Yeah, he does actually. The scene where Paul and Fiatora do the neck touchy thing.
Mhm.
It really needs a name.
That's what the
but,
Coppermine's
like-
gonna.
handshake.
That's what the Coppermine
Neck
article's going to
shaking.
be called, the neck touchy thing. That's the
Yeah.
official name.
I really liked that though. I thought that was
Yeah,
a really
but-
nice
but,
little
like-
bit of world building.
Yeah, it was. It was.
Yes, and when it came back at the end, like
Mhm.
when they met,
Well, and if Ilarion and does that to Fiatora too.
yeah,
Like,
yeah, I actually loved that
that is
because it
nice.
felt like a payoff for a world building thing.
Yeah, it was.
And there's also the parallel of in that final battle fight between Paul and Fiatora, like he says, like only a fool like seeks battle, and like that comes up beforehand. I don't remember who Paul said that to. Was if it was Fiatora or someone else.
But it was in their conversation.
Yeah.
Yeah, like their second meeting is a callback to their first
Yeah.
adventure together,
Mhm.
which is cool.
Well, cool.
Yeah, all in all, a very enjoyable read.
Yeah,
Yep.
absolutely. I'm
Yeah.
excited. I would recommend. You know?
Mhm.
So I don't know when the next time we'll talk about Dark One. Maybe sometime. But I think next up we're gonna need to talk about Way of Kings Prime. I have no idea how that's gonna look because I have read like none of it. So that'll be up next, and then of course November we got Rhythm of War really coming very soon. Because I was counting
2 years of Stormlight episodes.
2 years of Stormlight episodes, pretty much. I bet.
Mhm.
Cool. So you can find us on 17char.com for all your news, discussion, theories, and fun that you could ever want. Come talk with us on Discord. You can find us on Facebook, Twitter, YouTube, SoundCloud. You can leave us a review on iTunes. If you like our stuff, you can support us on Patreon. And we will see you all next time.
Bye.
I don't know of any Mirandan farewell things, but
Yeah, we don't have that.
imagine that I'm not touching your necks.
God. But first, before we start, just wanted to mention that though we are recording this long ago in Mirandan time, right now the Way of Kings Kickstarter's out, and so you can go see that. Excellent. I didn't plan that to happen, Ian, but that comedic timing, I'm glad. It was totally not planned.
It is always a good episode when somebody makes Ian do a spit take.
I know. It's so good.
I was trying. I was this close. I could not swallow.
You'll die and
Okay.
we'll forget about you.
Practice. Yes.
I did that math earlier, not just
I
now.
was gonna say.
You're a math professor. You should be able to do this off the cuff.
No,
Or at
math
least
isn't
pretend
about
you can do it
numbers,
off-
Ian. Math isn't about numbers. We have calculators for that, and I still calculate my tips with a calculator and not in my head. Dang it. Because I don't need to spend that brain power. We have got machines to do that for us. And you know what else has machines? Dark One with automatons. Terrible segues. Let's go.
Best segues.
Best segues. You know, speaking of segues, they're not selling the traditional segues anymore. Rip.
Oh no.
I know. Whatever will we
Speaking
do?
of segues, just a couple of days ago,
This is going your
just
great
a couple of
start.
weeks ago. Well, we'll get to the Dark One. Don't worry about it. So I've been using the word segue correctly,
Yeah.
for a long time, but in written text, I've been
yes.
spelling it incorrectly.
Yeah. I did that for a
And
long
I've-
time
and
too.
And I've seen like some people like give me weird look. Well, not I obviously haven't seen them, but like I've sensed the temperature in the room being weird when I do that. They're like, but now I know.
It ends
how
in
to-
UE, right? And that's how you.
Segu.
Well,
Yeah.
yeah. So words are hard right now.
So you don't know, audience, because I cut all the blank space for about a minute and a half of Evgeni trying to figure out what he wants to say. But maybe we should just steer this story back to Dark One. Argent.
So I've known that segue is I thought segue is pronounced seg. And so I've
Okay,
been
this is
doing
worth it.
that.
If you are still listening, I'm so glad you didn't click end. We're going to talk about Dark One, but that
So
made this
in
story
written
worth
text, In written text, I've been doing that plus the word way at the end.
Oh no.
it. Oh, that's how you
you're
did it?
spelling
Oh
segue?
no. Oh no. That's segue way.
But a
I
couple
thought
of
you were
weeks
just
ago,
spelling it like a segue.
Yeah. Like SEG.
yeah,
W.
that's that.
AY.
Yeah, no.
But you did
I,
with UE and then wrote way at the end of it. That's what you did.
yeah.
Please put hashtag segway down below. That will really make me just very happy if this is a meme. Please.
But now I know better.
I'll
That was
never
worth
be able
it.
to look at Segway in the same way.
That was totally worth it. That was worth it. Let's talk about Dark One, guys. Oh my god.
What a segue.
Yeah, it was a segue way. That was way seg. But